Hey everybody, it's HelpingHans here. Today I want to talk about what I would like to see in the upcoming patch. So let's get started with looking at the Whizbang. So what is the problem with the Whizbang? Well, first of all, let's make this an enemy Panzer IV. We can see here that the Panzer IV will take many shots to kill this artillery piece, making the Whizbang the strongest artillery piece in the game. That's number 3. That's number 4. And that's 5. So for me, I feel like this is already really difficult for an Axis player because even if they can dive in with a Panzer IV, they have to land 5 shots accurately. They also have to pen as well because they could bounce. It is a Sherman after all. Yeah, so it's just very difficult for an Axis player to do that. So the other issue, guys, we have is with the jettison launcher. Anytime that the allied player who's playing with Whizbangs feels threatened and they think that the Sherman might die or can't really fight, they will jettison the launcher and instantly they have a normal Sherman that can fight and defend for itself, which is pretty damn strong for an indirect fire unit. This allows allied players to or Americans specifically who pick this commander, this battle group, to skip going tank depot, and then for the first couple of Whizbangs they get the Vet 1, they fire them off, convert them over to normal Shermans, and then keep calling in Whizbangs so they've still got that indirect fire. So even if I was an Axis player and I managed to dive onto this Whizbang, like so, they can instantly jettison the launcher and then bang, without any delay, they can instantly defend themselves. So for me, the issue there is in the fact that the Whizbang can instantly jettison this launcher. What I would like to see is there needs to be a significant delay between jettisoning the launcher and then being able to get involved in combat. There needs to be some kind of punishment for the allied player getting caught off guard by an aggressive Axis player that manages to get on top of the Whizbang, and they should be rewarded for it. The allied player shouldn't be able to just be like, oh, okay, never mind, I'll just jettison the launcher and I'll just have this as a normal Sherman. There needs to be some kind of punishment. So in my eyes, what I would like to see happen to the Whizbang, guys, is that while it's got this launcher on, it needs to maybe take, maybe 2 or 3 shots to kill. And then when it jettisons its launcher, that's fine. It can become a normal Sherman, and then it becomes more tanky again. But there also needs to be that kind of delay on the jettison. So I would say they get caught, they jettison the launcher, and then they have probably maybe 5 or 6 seconds before the tank is then able to shoot. We have another issue here as well, guys, with the Whizbang, where if you just call on the Whizbang, it costs exactly the same as you would build it from the tank depot. Yes, it costs 5 command points to get it, but considering that the Weasel is free and then the mark target is only 2 command points, to be honest, it doesn't take too long to amass 7 command points during a match, so the Whizbang comes out fairly early, in my opinion, if you just call it on. And because you haven't got to build the tank depot, you say, all that resources that you've spent into tank depot can just go into an extra Whizbang potentially here. Whereas if you do build the tank depot, it's still going to cost you the exact same amount to build one, right? So for me, I feel like if you do go for the tank depot option, you should be rewarded for doing so, and therefore maybe the Whizbang should either be slightly cheaper here or keep it at the same price here and just make it so that the Whizbang, if you do call it on, it is coming in at a premium because you're skipping tank depot. I'm not saying a ridiculous amount, maybe just an increase, maybe 20-30 more manpower, maybe 10 or 20 more fuel. So that's the kind of change I would make there for the Whizbang. Next up, I want to talk about the power of units that can spawn in and instantly have their throwables and lob them to devastating effect. Prime example of this is, for instance, the partisans. We can spawn them in directly into this building, for instance, jump them out, and immediately they have access to their Molotovs. So I can come around here and instantly lob Molotovs onto this building here and massively damage this MG and get a quick kill on it before my opponent has a chance to react. So same thing with paratroopers as well. So you can spawn them in and straight away you can instantly lob their satchel charge right on top of a structure like this. No way to cancel this or stop this from an Axis player. If they get down, they'll be able to lob the satchel and do some significant damage to whatever they hit, which is incredibly strong. Here in this clip, we can see where the Axis player used a full pyro, he power dropped them in, and then as soon as they were down, he instantly lobbed the satchel charge and was able to take out my Veteran C2 British artillery piece here. And then he jumped into it, which then meant that I lost the piece entirely because I wouldn't be able to recover it. So this is almost an inherent issue with kind of units that power drop in as well, because in Company Heroes 3, power dropped units like Commandos, Fallschirmjägers, full pyros, commandos, they actually will not be targeted by Axis units or allied units until they are finished with the animation of paradropping in, and you'll see this right here. So look, we'll drop a paratrooper squad right on top of these Axis forces. See? till that first guy's done. Then the other guys can then target them. You would expect at the very least the Whirlwind to shoot them because it is a dedicated anti-aircraft unit as well. So maybe there could be a compromise here where anti-aircraft units would also shoot down paratrooper squads. Now, we're in Company Heroes 2. We'll do the exact same thing here. We'll drop a paratrooper squad right in on this point. Another thing about actually you want to point out actually in Company Heroes 2 is that actually if you do call in squads near kind of like terrain obstacles, you might actually lose the guys due to landing on trees and things like that. That doesn't happen in Company Heroes 3. So that's, I guess, another reason why maybe KOTOR might be more superior. Let's drop in the paratrooper squad now. So here become the paratroopers. We have an Oswin, a 222. Now, as these guys are dropping in, we should expect these vehicles to start shooting these guys as they're landing in. And look, there we go. Instantly, the Oswins, the infantry squads here, and the 222, when the infantry get close enough, are taking out these guys. So there we go. So we can see this is obviously a big difference, and I definitely feel like KOTOR does it better, because in KOTOR 3, if Axis or any player does drop these paratroopers in, they kind of, like, they're not penalized for dropping them in, like, into risky areas, right? They should be punished if they drop them in right on top of a lot of the enemy forces that are ready and waiting for them. Next up, let's talk about issues with the Partisan battle group that we saw introduced in Enduring Defy, the latest update for Company of Heroes 3 back in November. So the biggest issue with the Partisan battle group is probably with its tunnel bomb, the underground detonation. For 120 munitions, it does some serious damage, as we can see here.
Evacuate the area.
Completely murders infantry and almost completely takes out medium vehicles. Now, I've got a clip up next. Listen to it carefully and tell me what you think is wrong with this clip. Okay, hearing artillery. Sounds like a tunnel bomb coming in. Yeah, tunnel bomb. Yeah. I heard the artillery call in. So if you were listening carefully in that clip, guys, you would have heard the machine gun guy specifically say, "Fucking move artillery." Right? Now, that is wrong, because a tunnel bomb is not artillery. It's an underground detonation that's happening, right? So there needs to be a change to this audio line for every unit that this might occur to. So unfortunately for Relic, they need to have a different voice line and record different voice lines for every unit for Axis to have a specific new voice line for this thing, because this is not artillery. It confuses players as well, because they don't know. They're expecting some kind of, you know, off map to be land on them. Maybe a bishop's coming in to shoot them, or you know, or whatever else have you. They're not expecting for something to blow up under their feet. So it needs to change, and Relic have been known to change this before, because they did do this with the V1. If you remember back when the V1 was introduced in February of last year, it was very hard for allied players to figure out where it was landing, and then what did they do, Relic? They then added a very significant audio signature to it. You will hear a siren now when the V1 goes off, and now players have a much easier time at trying to figure out where it's landing, and therefore can dodge it. But here with the tunnel bomb, you just haven't got that kind of like audio clarity there at all. You can also argue that the visual clarity is not there either, because the fuse that you see lit can easily be missed during a big artillery bombardment or lots of other things happening, and the timer itself looks exactly the same as a normal throwable, like a grenade, as you see in this clip. That definitely needs to change in my eyes. I feel like they might need to change maybe the color of that timer so people know it's exactly a tunnel bomb, because it is so goddamn lethal. So another issue, guys, we have is with veterancy on squads, reducing the actual time it takes for the tunnel network recharge to refresh. You can send another squad through the tunnel system. So here, we'll just send a brand new rifleman squad through the tunnel system. Okay, and we'll bring him out, I don't know, over here. And then we can see on the right-hand side, we have a 15-second cooldown, right? Now what we'll do is we'll put through a Veteran C2 Rifleman Squad. Now, Veteran Rifleman Squad has a 50% ability recharge speed. So what we'll do is we'll throw this guy through the tunnel system, like so. And now it's 8 seconds on the network recharge time rather than the typical 15. I think this is pretty broken, because this allows the Partisan players to get their squads a lot further forward and onto the field faster than their opponents, and this is definitely, I feel like, not intended, because yeah, it just feels like it's very, very strong being able to get your squads forward that quickly. So there's another bug as well when constructing a tunnel and issuing a retreat command straight away. So we'll build a tunnel here with these riflemen. And now if we want to issue a retreat command after toggling this as a retreat point, you'll see they'll do this kind of weird stutter step thing and they won't actually retreat, which is really annoying. So this shouldn't be a thing, obviously, and hopefully this gets fixed. So next up, guys, I'm going to be talking about an inherent problem with a certain faction in Company Heroes 3 that's been a problem since the start of the game's life cycle back a couple of years ago. So here we have the Americans. In their early mid-game vehicles, we have a Greyhound and a Chaffee. The Brits have the Humber and Stuart. The Dutch have a lot of type of these vehicles. They've got the 259 Panzerjägers in a 250, a half-track, the Caro L6, the 8 Rad, and a Flamethrower Panzer 3. And then we look at the Wehrmacht. We have a 221 up gun, a Wirbelwind, a Marder, a Stug, pack gun, and a Stummel, right? So these are all kind of like the mid-game options that Wehrmacht have. Now, Wehrmacht, if you're probably thinking, oh, there's a problem here, and that problem is the majority of these units all have fixed turrets. They're all casemate. The problem here is they can't turn their turret 360. They have to turn the whole vehicle to be able to shoot something. That, you know, the 221 with the up gun, the Marder, the Stug, the pack will obviously have to turn and shoot, and same thing with the Stummel. So all of these units here have a really hard time at chasing, you know, units that may be through urban areas, being able, you know, they're easily kind of like surrounded and circled and kited in that kind of regard. The Wirbelwind is the only unit here that can actually turn its kind of turret 360, but it's not really a good anti-vehicle unit. It's a more dedicated anti-infantry. Yes, it does have some white phosphorus rounds, but it's not great against vehicles, right? So for me, there's a big problem here with Wehrmacht. We look at all the other factions. You know, we've got the Caros, we've got the Panzerjägers that, you know, once they're in the 250, they can shoot 360. The 259, that can shoot 360 degrees. So can the flak half-track. All these other units can do it. And then we look at the Allies. Stuart has that ability. The Humber has that ability. So does the Chaffee. And so does the Greyhound. So for me, the Wehrmacht really need a kind of early mid kind of vehicle that's the equivalent of maybe like a Stuart, maybe like a Chaffee or a Greyhound. And for me, it'd be something like the Panzer 38T or maybe the Puma, which had the kind of that upgun turret, which made it very good at chasing down light vehicles. And even, you know, later on into the later stages of the game, it was a pretty decent unit you'd call onto the field so you could maybe hunt down artillery or things like that. Now, none of these units are going to be really good for that, unfortunately. Even the 221, which is maybe your cheapest option, this vehicle has the hardest time trying to like chase things down. It has to like line up the shot, and as soon as something gets away, it's not going to be able to fire because it's like its arc of fire is so restricted. It just makes it just a terrible unit. And also, once it's upgunned, it's now pointless and useless against infantry. The only thing I guess it would be good for is having the radio antenna. Whereas we look at the Allied equivalent, we can see like the Greyhound, yes, it's going to be good against infantry, but even in late game, you might be want to using it for raiding. You can maybe use it as a sacrificial unit to get around the back to take out a Stuka. Same thing with the Chaffee. Chaffee's also the ability to do recon mode as well, which is a new addition, which I like. For the Americans, they kind of needed that new kind of scout thing, other than just relying on their normal scouts to gain vision. But yeah, with the, you know, same thing with the Humber. The Humber can maybe go in for a dive, so could the Stuart, and they're kind of cheaper options to potentially go for. So that's my opinion there. I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah, I think what I would probably do here is maybe, I mean, we already have the Marder from Dax, so maybe we should replace the Marder here from Wehrmacht with a Puma or a Panzer 38T to give Wehrmacht players some kind of more flexibility with their non-doctrinal units. Unfortunately, as a Wehrmacht player, it's only until you get to tier 4 and you get a Panzer 4 out that you actually have that kind of solid you know, all-rounder, which is good against infantry and vehicles. So, but that generally, you know, getting tier 4 out, you're going to be taking a while before you can get the tier 4 out. So you're going to be generally struggling in that early mid-game. Especially now as well, since you can't build the Panther from tier 4 like you used to do in previous Company Heroes games. The Panther is now bound to a battle group. So your Panzer 4 is kind of your best option, unless you know, go for a certain other vehicle by picking a battle group. One thing I guess you could do is go for Mechanize and call on the 8 Rad here as a Wehrmacht player, but this does not beat a Greyhound on a 1v1, it won't beat a Chaffee on a 1v1, and it also won't beat a Stuart in a 1v1. Maybe be able to beat the Humber, but yeah, it's just, you know, it's still, again, not the equivalent of those other units. It might be a good chasing unit, but you don't want to force yourself to pick this kind of battle group to kind of be a bit viable as a Wehrmacht player. They do need a non-doctrinal kind of early mid-game unit, like I said with the Puma or the Panzer 38T. So another thing, guys, I want to look at is the Borgward. This was introduced as well in the During Defy update with the Last Stand battle group. This thing is kind of quirky. I kind of like it as a unit, but it just doesn't fulfill its role very well. This ability, it's anti-tank rocket barrage that is free. So we'll do this ability here at range here, and it's very inaccurate. You can see it's just missing quite a lot. We'll do it a couple of times. Max range. You know, that time a couple of the rockets did hit and we got a damaged engine, but overall, you know, one rocket hit, minimal damage. You kind of need a couple rockets to kind of smash to get the accuracy in like that. But even if you do get the damage engine, you're not going to be doing that much damage anyway. So for me, I would like to see maybe a slight increase to this ability, to this ability's accuracy. Even like I wouldn't mind it to cost a bit of munitions if I knew it was going to be more reliable at hitting enemy units. Another thing, guys, is that these rockets will do 0, and I mean 0 damage to infantry. We'll fire directly on all these riflemen here. And you can see that not a single one has taken any damage. We'll do it a couple of times to prove a point. Right. Completely no damage. Now, I don't know how that is fair when you've got something like the Tulip rockets from the Humber, the Stuart, and the Firefly doing some serious damage to infantry, whereas the Borgward just doesn't do anything, right? So I'm not expecting this to be a wiping machine, but I'm expecting a little bit of damage. Maybe, like if I fully smash a rifleman squad almost at point blank range, I'm expecting to do maybe 10, 20, maybe 25% damage to the squad, because I am shooting at them with freaking rockets, right? I know they're supposed to be anti-tank rockets, but hey, you know, if someone was shot with a rocket in the face, I'm pretty sure they would die, right? So I think they would. It does need a little bit of anti-infantry firepower. Not a huge amount, but something. Now, the demolition charge thing is quite nice as well. I think that's fine. You could use smoke in conjunction with it to get some good abilities and good explosions off with it. So that is a fine thing. But I would also maybe want to see it slightly gain a bit faster veterancy rate, which I would like to see for sure, because it does feel like it takes a while for this unit to get vet. So maybe this is one of those types of units that should be gaining shared veterancy. So I think that would be a good idea. Moving on, let's talk about the King Tiger. Now, for me, the King Tiger is one of those units that come out way too late in a game. You either have to pick if you pick Terror. You either go for the V1 or you go for the King Tiger, and you know it kind of screws you over because you do that. And also, by picking the King Tiger, the other thing that screws you over is this stupid ability, this passive, which is a fuel drain. While alive, this unit decreases total fuel income by 50%. It's already a huge pop thing. I mean, let me get rid of the Borgward right now. It's already costing 24 pop. A quarter of your army is going into this single unit. And the fact that it's so slow, it moves around, like, you know, you're not going to be able to react quickly around the map with it. It doesn't even have the thing that with Code 2 where you could activate the spearhead mode on it, which gave it kind of that extra frontal range, you know, and a little bit of extra fire rate, if I remember correctly. It does have the damage reduction of Vet 1 for 25%, but I don't rate it at all, guys. I really don't think the King Tiger's worth going for. You know, if it gets crippled as well, allies have got so many off-maps or mark target from the captains available from Americans, things like that can easily take this out very quickly. You know, we've got the decapitation strike recently from the Polish cavalry. That's going to, you know, if the King Tiger gets engine crit, that's just going to kill it in one go. And that's, you know, that's that Wehrmacht player's game done, potentially, because they've invested all these resources into this expensive unit. So for me, what I want to see for the King Tiger, remove this stupid fuel drain ability and maybe reduce its command point by maybe 1, or, you know, increase its speeds maybe slightly, or give it a spearhead mod that the King Tiger used to have in Company of Heroes 2. I also highly recommend checking out Tightropes videos, guys. He's made 2 recently on his thoughts for the balance changes and things that he would like to see improve in Company of Heroes 3 over the next year or so. So this one here I would recommend checking out, and this one here, and I'll leave links to those in my description below. Definitely recommend watching them, guys, because Tightropes is very knowledgeable about the game, and I agreed with pretty much everything he said in his videos, so definitely give them a watch.
So guys, that's the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did and want more content, check out over here and over here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, make sure to click the button down here. Catch you next video, guys. Take care. I'll see you soon.